Welcome to today's little experiment. So I have been out on a survey today to look at a church that has had a few problems with damp ingress. The stone is quite impervious, and my initial assumption was that there was some cement pointing on the outside which may be stopping the moisture from getting out of the walls. So I've taken away a few samples, and it's quite apparent that there's quite a different types of lime that have been used on the wall. We have this one here, which is quite a soft lime. You can see that there's some white specks which could be lime inclusions. So I suspect that that is probably quite breathable and quite good. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got this dark grey mortar, which I suspect is probably cement. So if you look at the two together, you can see that this one is quite coarse grained, it's got quite a lot of texture on it, whereas this is much denser and it's darker. So I suspect that it's a much stronger mortar. Even if it is lime, it's probably not very breathable. So we are going to carry out a little bit of an experiment here. One way to test whether there is lime present is to use some acid. And if you put some of the lime into the acid, we will get bubbles of carbon dioxide coming off. Let's start with the dense one. So when we break it and we look at the cross section, we can see again it's a very dense structure. So I'm going to put it into this little bottle here. I'm going to break it up into small pieces so that it will react a little bit faster with the acid. And I'm going to put a little bit of acid in here. Well, I'm looking at it, I'll give it a wee shake about and we'll let it settle there. So there's a few bubbles coming off there. So it does look as if there could be a little bit of lime in there. Not a whole lot, it must be said, but it is bubbling away. So I'm not sure if you can see that if I hold that up to the camera. I'm not sure if the camera will focus on it or not, but you might be able to see that there's a few bubbles coming off there. Not a whole lot. So we shall try the other one, see what happens. Okay, back again. We're going to try our second sample here. So this is the slightly softer mortar that came from the building, and we're going to put that in. This seems to be the predominant mortar that was on the wall, so there's a little bit less of the thicker stuff. So let's put in some here, add a little bit of our vinegar, see what happens. Oh, now straight away, look, I'm not sure if camera can pick that up or not, but this is fizzing away quite the jing. So there's clearly a much higher lime content in this sample. Because it's quite soft, you can break it in your hand quite easily. You can see it crumbles to dust. And because we can see these white specks of lime inclusions here, I would suspect that this is quite a breathable mortar, and that in actual fact the problem in the wall isn't so much coming from moisture getting trapped in the core of the wall because it can't get out through evaporation. I think the problem is probably more likely to be condensation. So just for the sake of completeness, I'm going to take a bit of a sample which I know for certain is a gauged hot lime mix. So we know that there's lots and lots of free lime in this. And we're just going to break it up a little bit. Interestingly, this mix is a little bit tougher than the soft mix that we took off the wall. So I wonder interesting to know what the actual mix was. Unfortunately, we don't have a big enough sample to send away to a lab for analysis to get a proper breakdown of what the constituents might have been. Anyway, here we go. Oh yes, look at that. Whew. Now, look at that, that is bubbling away like nobody's business. So it just goes to show that that hot lime mix is absolutely full of lime. We've got our three samples. One which has a little bit of lime, not very breathable. One which has more lime and is likely to be quite a good match for the wall, I would suspect. Certainly not going to cause any problems with moisture getting trapped in the wall. And then you've got this one here, which is our hotline mix, which is just absolutely fizzing. So this is by far the most breathable mix of lime mortar that we can put on the wall. Now this is a piece of cement mortar. I know for a fact that this has got absolutely no lime in it whatsoever. I'm not sure if you can see on the camera just how dense that is. If you compare that to the lime mortar there, much darker grey, looks kind of hideous. And I cannot break this with my fingers. It is so strong. No wonder it destroys stone. It is far, far, far too strong for using on a stone building. Right. Okay, let's give it a go. See what happens. Okay, interesting. Getting a little bit of bubbles. Not a whole lot happening, but there are a few bubbles coming off it. A wee shake to speed up the reaction. No, I don't know if you can see, there's not a lot really happening there at all. It's pretty quiet in there. One or two bubbles coming off, but you can really see that there really isn't much happening at all. So completely unscientific. If you're really wanting to know what's in your walls, you really need to go and get a proper analysis from somebody like the Scottish Lime Centre. Don't rely on this. Definitely you need to follow it up with some proper professional advice. But yeah, interesting nonetheless.